Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's meeting of the Historical Committee of Foothills County. I am going to open the meeting today at 10:19, and the first order of business is going to be to appoint a member to act as chair for the upcoming year. So if I could look for nominations from the floor for the position of chair.
I would nominate Alan Alger.
Thank you, Mr. Alger. You'll accept?
Thank you. I'll accept that nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. So for a second time, I'll call for nominations from the floor. And for a third time. Seeing no other nominations, I would like to welcome Councillor Alger as chair of the Historical Committee for this upcoming year.
Very much. Thank you, Mr. Mills, for the nomination. Appreciate that. And thank you to the committee. So in front of us today, we have an agenda, and we have an addition to the agenda that didn't get on. We have an emergent item to add to today's agenda because we have our friends from the U of C joining us today, and we didn't get them on the agenda at time. So I'll look for a motion to make that an emergent item on today's agenda. Thank you, Councillor Kendall. All in favor of that, please signify. That motion carries. And I would look for any other additions or deletions to today's agenda by anybody. And not seeing any, I would ask for a motion to accept today's agenda. Thank you, Councillor Kendall. All in favor of that? Thank you very much. Okay, I'll go to item number 2 is to the introduction of our new members of our new board. And we welcome Councillor Kendall from Division 3 and Councillor McHugh from Division 7, and welcome them as new members to our board. And Councillor Kendall, would you like to introduce yourself and just give us a little spiel if you want?
My name's Laura Kendall. I'm newly elected councillor for Division 3. Looking forward to being on the Historical Committee. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. McHugh, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor for Division 7. Yeah, and that's my phone.
And local farmer?
Never ends. Yeah, so going in my 3rd term and lots of history in the family, so happy to be aboard. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our previous councillors that were on this committee, Councillor Miller and Councillor Delilah Miller and Barb Castell, who were previously on this committee, and thank them for their past assistance with this board and wish them all the best in their future endeavors. The next item of business is we'll go on to item number 5, which is minutes of the previous meeting, and I looked through them and didn't see any issues and would look to the panel if anybody has any concerns. Not seeing any, I would look for a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting, September 8th, 2025. Mr. Mills gives up that. All in favor of that? That motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6.1 is review of the Historical Committee bylaw. And again, I read through that, and I did have a question with that I discussed with Sherry, which was the item 3D, which is election of the chairman and vice chairman shall occur at the first meeting of the committee after the adoption of this bylaw and each year thereafter. And we just think that was not written in the right.
Good question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was absent at the last meeting, therefore I don't think I can adopt the minutes.
Right, you are. Okay.
My apology.
No, I should have caught that myself. Okay, we'll need another motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting. So That would have to be me, because I think I'm the only, well, Rod was there. Rod, would you make that motion?
Sure.
Yeah, you and I were the only ones from the last meeting. And just one other thing, Sherry. Yep, go ahead.
Sure. Minutes.
Yep.
When we did talk about, requesting GIS staff from the county and a meeting of the committee.
Yep.
Talked about, what would be involved in creating the online map for school markers. That wasn't noted.
Okay, that was noted in my notes in my own day timer, and that is totally my drop the ball on that because I have not reached out to staff yet on that. I know we're shorthanded, but I've made another note of it. We'll work on that. Thank you. I was going to mention that in our action list. Yeah.
Appointed vice chair.
That's what I was just going to
Oh, sorry.
inquire to Sherry. Do we need to do a vice chair? Okay. Then, anybody would like to be the vice chair of this committee?
I would nominate.
Mr. Mills, would you accept that nomination as the vice chair?
As long as you don't miss too many.
I typically don't miss too many.
Good. Okay, I'll stand.
Don't need to put you on the spot.
All right, I'll go around the floor one more time. Anybody else like to be the vice chair of this committee for the next year? And I'll ask for a third time. Not seeing any. Yep, yep, okay. Rod would like to be the vice chair also, so what do we do? Go for a vote? Okay,
Oh, I just know.
Oh, sorry, okay, I didn't
No,
realize.
no, that's okay.
No, I'm
Yeah.
good. I'll withdraw. That can, yeah.
Welcome to.
No, I thought we were looking for someone, but you already nominated, so I withdraw.
okay. All right, seeing no further nominations, then we'll welcome Mr. Mills to be the vice chair of the historical committee for the next year. Okay. That out of the way. Okay, going back to the bylaws of the historical committee bylaw, is there any questions, concerns? Noted. Mr. Ross, go ahead, please.
Sure, thank you. So in outlining the roles and duties of the committee, it refers to the cultural landscape survey.
Put your mic on.
The section outlining the roles and duties of the historical committee makes reference to the cultural landscape survey. Where I've never seen this survey. Is it online or is it accessible in some way? Because this is the basis for the function of the committee.
That's a good question. I'll have to go to staff for that answer, if I may.
Okay, I'm going way back in my memory now. When the historical committee was first established back in 2005, I understand that there was a survey done at that time that was the basis of this committee. I can see if I can't find that. It was a document that was prepared by a resident that was an integral part of forming this committee originally. And I'm sure we have it somewhere. I can see if I can't find it for the committee. And in consideration of that, I'm not sure that it's entirely even relevant anymore for the committee's mandate. So we might have to take a look once we retrieve that document and see what it says, take a look, and that might be something that we want to revamp in the bylaw moving forward as well. But I can bring that back to the next meeting if I can find it in advance. If memory serves, it was quite a large book. So I don't know if I can send it to you digitally or not. It wouldn't have been digital back in 2005, but we can see what we can do. If I can get it to you before the next meeting, I will do so. And if not, then at our next meeting, I'll make sure we have copies of it.
Okay,
That's satisfactory.
if it didn't get lost in the flood, a lot of records, good. Cross your fingers, okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Ross? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I can continue, just kind of, I just want to go, I'd like to review the purpose and function of this committee if, as a group. If I may, I've been on it for close to 2 years now, and not intended as a criticism, but this is an observation that we don't do an awful lot. You know, our time is all valuable, and if we're going to make the effort to come here, I think we need some clarity of purpose. So the first role outlined in the bylaws to advise council on issues of heritage value within the municipality. Has the committee ever done that? Has the committee ever provided advice to council on issues of historic value? It hasn't in my time, but maybe it has in the past. Maybe the councillors that have, you know, that are present, that have been on council for some time, can let us know.
But you want to speak to that? I can speak to that. And probably Mr. Mills can from previous dates too. So every week we do our committee reports to council where we report what we've done through our committees, all our different committees that we all sit on. And then other than that, just specific, if we have something specific that we want to do that may have a financial cost to it or things like that, then we make those recommendations to council on an agenda. Go ahead, Mr. Mills.
Cute. No, I think the other thing is as historical is that if there is in any of the subdivision applications issues regarding historical things, that we are to advise council of that concern. And we do. You know, if there is something that in the past that we did see, we probably, it doesn't happen very often, but there was instances where we said, you know, be aware such and such. So, and that is one of the things that we need to be watching all the time. Yep, go ahead.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To that end, are we circulated? Is the committee included as in the referral list for major area structure plans or subdivision applications, rezoning? I've never seen something brought forward to the committee for our formal comment on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't believe we are on area structure plans and things like that. There is part of the application is always a historical aspect or even orphan well, things like that is part of the applications for subdivisions or any kind of developments in the area.
And I'm not suggesting that we should. I'm just trying to flesh out what are we doing here. And so, yeah, I don't think the committee needs to be circulated on applications, but because we'd have to meet a lot more frequently, and probably don't have the expertise to provide provide meaningful comment on them. The next, if I may continue, Mr. Chairman, just kind of going through the roles and duties. The next is to respond to council requests for information on development. Oh, I guess that's what Mr. Mills was saying. Responding to requests from council on specific issues. Has council ever directed anything to the historical committee for comment?
I don't believe I've seen anything in my tenure? You? Our
No,
historian?
we didn't, we've never spoke. You know, behind the scenes, you talk about things and say, hey, you know, there's a concern here, or let's check this out. I don't think we ever brought anything directly to council. Sherry, I don't think so.
I think right in the beginning, there might have been one or two applications that were circulated to the historical committee. But like you say, I think that they determined that perhaps the historical committee isn't the best authority to, doesn't have the expertise maybe to research specific applications or lands or issues. If there is a specific issue that's identified, I believe then it might be brought to the historical committee to further research. But to actually have this committee go out and research an application wholesome in full isn't necessarily our expertise. So it hasn't been done unless there's something specific. Like you say, something specific that they've identified that, hey, I think this might have occurred on this land. Can you guys do some research and report back to council? That would be more the situation rather than just a general, can you look at this plot of land?
Yeah.
And see if anything ever happened there. If that's makes sense.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the final role is to plan activities and events when required that engage the community in raising the public profile of the history of the municipality, such as plaque programs, award programs, walking, driving tours, lecture programs, newspaper articles, etc. That's yeah, I think there's value in that. But I don't think we've done anything to that effect in anything recently, or have we?
We've done a couple of things. So we, as you are aware, that we talked with when Councillor Miller was here, that we talked about perhaps doing a pullout for the Mill City area, so north of Longview. And we went to the province to look at that, and then the price tag, that was in the last meeting, that the price tag came back, it was going to be like about $700,000 to do a pullout with a sign and all the goodies. We did do a tour a couple of years ago of the John Ware site, the John Ware homestead site west of Millerville. We did a tour there with the landowner and kind of local historian. Councillor Castell set that up. And other than that, I don't think we've done anything real tour wise. Again, you're longer than me in there, but so yeah. Go ahead.
So another example would be quite a few years ago, the committee was collecting stories from just old timers in the communities and recording these stories. I don't know if that project was ever completed because again, it was a committee-based project. It wasn't staff-based. We have probably some records back in the day, but as part of that, they were setting up booths at like the Millerville racetrack. We'd have a booth out there during the Canada Day celebrations that they have. Or I think they maybe set up in Blackie, and Flores Granville would bring his old, was it a Model T out, and the committee would man these booths and just engage with the community and try to collect more of these stories and leads from residents as to who they could maybe speak to. So that's an example of an event that they would have planned back when it was a little more active.
And also previous member, Mr. Larson, did a lot of work on the Old McLeod Trail markers. So it wasn't so much an event, but he would put together, crews and go out and fix and paint and keep those markers in tip-top shape. So.
Well, if I may just kind of continue, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Just what, and let me know if I'm out of turn. What I'd think would be useful for this committee is to look at its role and how we can relate to and support the other historic societies that are within Foothills County. And see, figure out what our role can be. Maybe we're more of a supportive body, or like, the county's pretty special. They do have a lot of expertise. It's a big organization. We have, you know, GIS expertise. We can do things that smaller societies can't, because they don't have the technical expertise or the longevity, right? The county will always be here. Societies kind of struggle sometimes. They lose members, and they might lose their sense of purpose. So I'm wondering if there could be value in talking to the societies and seeing how, what the county does can work with and support what, maybe fill voids that they're unable to do. And maybe we can revisit kind of the role of what we're trying to do here. I don't know if that's just something that occurred to me, and I wanted to offer that up as something for.
And that's fair
discussion.
comment. And I know that you are involved with the Turner Valley Oilfield Society, right?
I was for a number of years.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of the struggles that these small societies have in maintaining momentum and completing projects.
Fair comments, all in all. I can speak to a lot of the things that we do, that we want to do, that we can't do, because it's again, feasibly out of the question money wise. And then other thing is staff time. We're just like everybody else in the world. We're short on staff, and our staff is busy doing other things besides this committee, and we just don't have enough time to do all those boxes that we looked at the last meeting with all the school markers and all those kind of things that we want to put onto a website and all that, that's all staff time having to do that. And we just don't have it at this point. So, and I know we are working on it, and Sherry and I talked this morning about it and how we're going to kind of reinvent the wheel and free up some time for somebody, or hire somebody, or, it could, and I suggested it could be, somebody that's working from home that could, do a couple hours a day or a few hours a week and put some stuff on the website. So. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that's, I was at the Okotoks Museum a couple of months ago, and they had a display on the one-room schoolhouses in Foothills County, and they had compiled brief summaries of the history of the schools that were all within the county. So they had done the project that we've been talking about. Like, they had compiled the information, but they don't have the ability to put it up online because they're just a small society. They can't make an online web map. That's not within their capacity, but it might be within Foothills County's capacity. And so seeing that, and it got me thinking, like, maybe we're supporting, maybe we support these societies. They've got the information, they got the time and the drive to compile the information. They don't have the capacity, the technical know-how to put it, to build the map, but maybe we do. And that got me thinking that maybe we really need to start talking to the societies within the county and see how we can relate to them in a supportive way.
Okay. Good comments. Anybody else have any comments? Anybody else? Go ahead.
And it might be that maybe we could, in the original, when we first started doing the schoolhouses, we contacted Vulcan County, and we also went to Willow Creek, and for their input, so that we weren't just duplicating all the same things. And I agree with you that, I mean, this shouldn't be a committee of just make work. And, if there's something that we can do that is of importance in the county, great. But otherwise, we shouldn't be making stuff up. But those two counties, or the MD and the county there, could probably help us if there's things that they're running into that maybe we could say, here's something that we're experiencing you might want to look at, and just for information. And so that we don't go down a rabbit hole on something that we shouldn't be going on. Because we don't have the expertise, we don't have the manpower. And
Manpower's a big one.
but again, by using their information as far as the school markers and all that, it was really good. They did help us a lot. And the lady out there, they also went through all the cemeteries in Vulcan County and made sure they were all noted, so forth. There might be and that might be something at some point. Maybe somebody applies to do something, not knowing that there maybe was somebody buried there, and things like that. So they went through that portion and tried to figure that out. But anyway, I support you in saying, we don't need to be doing things that we don't need to be doing. But on the other hand, it's good to talk to council, say, hey, I got a concern on this as our council or as our committee, and let it go from there.
Mhm.
Maybe it goes to the planning and they do their explore it a little bit more, so forth. But that's what we did. We just talked to both those MDs and counties, and it helped us a lot in getting all that stuff established.
You good? Okay. Thanks for that. I know I know our friends from UFC. I think Ms. Perrick has a class at 11, so we're going to jump. I'll just look for a quick motion to that we've reviewed today's bylaws, and we've had our comments and suggestions, and we'll take those into our consideration. I don't think we're changing the bylaw. We're just going to use the wording of the bylaw and continue on with what we do with some improvements. Who would like to give us that motion? Mr. Ross, would you like your lots of comments? You can make the motion if you want, or we can discuss it more, but we need to move on to our group here. We can pause this and have a little bit more after.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd make the motion to pause this conversation. Let the UFC team make their presentation, and maybe we can continue the conversation after.
I don't know if we need a motion for it, do we, or just, we'll just put it on pause. Okay, so we'll move on to what I'm calling 6.2 is our friends from UFC are going to do a presentation. And like I said, I wanted to get going on it because I know that Ms. Perrick has a meeting coming up. So go ahead, Ms. Perrick, and maybe you could introduce your team and carry on. Thank you.
Maybe we can do some quick introductions, and Jerry, our PhD student, is actually going to be taking the lead on the presentation and kind of providing you a little bit of an update on what we did over the summer. I will have to leave around 11, so maybe we can just do some quick introductions, and then I have one announcement before Jerry starts the update. So my name is Dr. Sabrina Perich. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Anthropology and the co-director of the Energy Stories Lab. And we spent the summer doing some work that's of interest to this committee, and we'll give you a fulsome update today. So maybe Jean-René and then Jerry.
Yes, so I'm Dr. Jean-René LeBlanc, also a professor in the Department of Anthropology and Archaeology with Sabrina, and I'm also with Sabrina, one of the co-directors of the Energy Stories Lab. And I think the presentation that Jerry's going to have today will be of quite interest, totally related to a lot of the points that you brought up today. And there we go.
Good morning. My name is Jerry Stradoff, and I am a PhD student interested in cultural memory, or pardon me, community memory and industrial heritage. So Foothills County, the Turner Valley oil fields is very interesting to me. I do have a presentation. Would you be able to allow me to share the screen?
And while you're getting that set up, I'll make one announcement, which I was going to make at the end, but because I'm going to have to cut out a little bit past 11, I'll just make that announcement now. I just wanted to share that I will be forwarding an email to the Legislative Services email to just circulate to the committee as part of and this just might be of general interest to you or perhaps some people that you know, as part of the Petroleum History Society's luncheon this upcoming week. 5 of my students from my undergraduate class on energy and society will be doing presentations on the history of British and American oil. Some of you may know the British American Oil Company from the Turner Valley Oilfield Society's historical panel alongside the road just east of Longview, where the old British American plant used to be. Those records from BA Oil were donated to the university by ConocoPhillips not too long ago, and my undergraduate students were some of the first to actually get into those archives, and they all wrote terrific papers about the history of British American oil, and 5 of them will be presenting their historical work at the Petroleum History Luncheon. So I'll forward that along just for general interest, and I'll turn it over to Jerry.
Okay, thank you for that.
Can everybody see this screen?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So today's presentation, and I'll try and keep it to 20 minutes, I think that's what we had aligned, is to talk about some of the documents and information that we have gathered and some of the other production work that we've actually done, which may be useful for or interesting for some people there. So this presentation will include our student research assistance work, some of the insights that we've made from the material that we've gathered, some of my own private research as a student, and a prototype for deep mapping, as well as an example story map and how these can be used to share history of the region for visitors. Our 2 student researchers, Ice Simeon and Josh Lee, were working with Kim Garibaldi, pardon me, at the Glenbow Library and Archives in the Digital Library. They spent a lot of the summer going through boxes and boxes of school records, historical information, and newspaper articles for anything that had to do with Mercury and Mill City. We were concentrating on these 2 for part of our deep mapping project to figure out how everything works together. And we're kind of expanding on it because you can't really look at these 2 communities in isolation for the rest of the Turner Valley oil fields. Everything was happening all together. You can't really look at one individual community. Some of the stuff that they brought in was the daily registers for the different schools. We don't have all the years, but we have significant years that we can get some insights from. They also had correspondence from different people that were mentioning Mercury and Mill City, as well as newspaper articles and other information when the archives from one company were taken over by another company. Their work allowed me, some of the insights that we have from their work is this interesting correlation. If you've ever wondered why it was called Mill City, we found this information about the Mill City rugby team. And when I did a little bit more research, I discovered that Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan used to be called Mill City because of the Rogers feed mill or flour mill. And I found that very interesting. It does make you wonder who the original investors were for that particular oil well. The other information that we had from this correspondence for hours for a second school that the janitor was expected to clean was this information that he was paying $20 a month of his $100 a month wage for rental of the housing. This is the first instance I've seen that actually has written documentation as to how much people were paying for the houses and the right to live in on some of the farmers' properties in the Turner or in the Mill City and Mercury area. What their work allowed me to do was go down my own rabbit holes, and I managed to find the original article for the explosion at the Turner Valley gas plant. And this image actually allows me to understand where the explosion took place at the gas plant. It also had some information about the amount of blood plasma. Shortly afterwards, there was a blood drive in the Turner Valley, basically all of Foothills County, to actually heal the people that were injured during the explosion. I also managed to find a blueprint of the alteration for the Mercury Camp School, which was based off of 2 buildings from the Mayland camp before it became Mercury Camp.
And just
Oh.
a quick addition. One
Sure.
thing too to know that all of the documents about Mill City and Mercury that our undergraduate students found, they did also digitize as well. And so we've got all of the digitized files from that area that they located.
Thank you, Sabrina. One of the other things that this allowed me to do while they were doing their work was to find resources that were not specifically in Alberta. And I found these collection of photographs taken by photographers working for newspapers in Vancouver. So these are part of the Vancouver archive, and you may not have seen them. This is the Anglo-American headquarters in 1940, just below Longview. And this image here, a historical image of the Longview area, will show you where that particular cluster of buildings was. I believe there's a construction company working down there, but all of the trees that you see planted here have now overgrown that entire area, but the trees are still there. You can still see the little road going through them. I haven't photographed in that area yet, but I would like to do a then and now image of this particular one. Moving along, I also found several documents and maps, and this might be interesting for locating some of the original schoolhouses in the area. This map is from 1929. This is from the Federal Archives, and this one is from 1931, and this one is from 1945. And I'll go through these a little bit more when I start talking about how the deep map is working. As well, I managed to find this very large and complete map of the Turner Valley well locations in 1940. And I found that this may finally solve my personal question as to which road was actually called Sterling Road. Some of the information that we discovered going through the school documents is up until about 1939, there were only 2 books for the school grades. In 1941, there were 3 books. And this is interesting because the school district was originally called Mercury, and then it became Turner Valley. And this is a set of photographs that I have located from the Howdy MacPhail Library or archive at the University of Saskatchewan archives. Howdy MacPhail is the person who's responsible for photographing many small towns in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and BC. If you've ever seen a postcard with white lettering at the bottom, chances are it was photographed by Howdy MacPhail. His collection is not well dated, so they have both of these as 1950s. But if you look where my mouse is, I don't know if you can see it, but there are a series of tanks. And if you think back to the photograph of the explosion, these tanks should be horizontal tanks for storing gas. So this is probably taken after the fire in 1953. In this one, though, down at the bottom of the screen, you can see the South Turner Valley High School, which was responsible for the grades, I believe, 7 till 12. and that was in royalties. Now they've labeled this as Hartel. I have communicated with them. However, if Howdy McPhail labeled it as Hartel, they may not be able to change the name of this particular file. So I'm going to go through the web apps a little bit. I'm going to start with the Deep Map project because that will inform how the story maps can be built. Our Deep Map project is an unfinished exploration of how to add information to a deep map. And when it comes to societies needing to have this outlet to add information themselves, this may be a very useful way of doing it for them once I get the software ironed out. In this particular case, you have at the bottom of the screen some maps that we can overlay. The one thing about looking at all those maps is they don't really mean much if you don't have a correlation to where things are. But if you add the capability of displaying a map, and I'm going to bring up the 1929 map, you can understand where it
Hey,
is.
Jerry, we can't see the maps. We just
Yeah.
see the slide, the web app slide.
Oh, okay. Let me just. I think I have to change sharing to that. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now. Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. So I was talking about the location on the web app for the deep mapping project and how being able to add a map from that era over top, you can start to understand a little bit of what the landscape was at the time. I'm going to pause here and just point out some interesting things. There is no road from Warehart all the way down to Longview because Longview didn't exist. People used to go through the field by Mercury Camp and then down through what I call the Big Gap, and that is taking them to the Longview Post Office. The reason I mentioned this might be useful for schools is that you can see the schools that have been labeled on these maps. This might be useful for people who are trying to understand where different school markers were. There's also some for post office boxes. You saw that for the Longview, as well as for churches in the area. But like I say, you can kind of see how the landscape changed. And what's also interesting is the insight is that the roads that were used are still there in some fields. This one here is the road that used to be called Mercury Road. And this other one down through what I call Big Gap is still there as well. Now I'm going to bring up the second map here and zoom out just a bit. This is 1931. And if I zoom out a bit more, up here near Naphtha, you can see that there's a lot of houses and oil wells being built, but not very many down near Hartel or in the Mercury Camp area. And if I contrast that with the 1945 map, you can see that Naphtha is almost all gone. Hartel has grown quite a bit. The Mercury Camp area has a large number of buildings as well as royalties. So the first oil wells in this area were successful in 1936. The first commercial building in royalties was built in 1938. And this map is from 1945. The other thing that this deep map allows is to understand a little bit of information about the area if you have aerial photographs available. And the ability to use the slider to see the opacity lets you see the extent of the refineries in the area. Now this is from 1948, I believe, or 1958. And what's interesting is if we look at the 1945 map, you'll see that there's a cluster of oil wells down here. In the aerial photograph, there's nothing there. But if I overlay this with a 1940 well map, you'll see that Royal Light Plant number 2 was there. And I find that that's interesting because there's no limitation for that farmer and their field. If you look at the map for the British American Oil Company, that entire field is blocked off, and the farmer, from what I can see, there's no animals being run there, and there's no farming actually being done there. Now, when I was mentioning Sterling Road, there's a mention in one of the historical notes on the school being at the end of Mercury Road, which might be that road that I pointed out. And they implied that this road was Sterling Road from Mercury School to the highway near Hartel. But I suspect that it was actually the road down towards where Longview became that was called Sterling Road. These are insights that you can build from all of the information that you have here. Now, you may wonder why this deep map helps for different societies, and that's the ability to share stories. And I'm just going to bring up a little part here. There we go. From a location, click and hold. And on this, we can actually upload media. We can take a photograph if we happen to be in this location. We can record audio or upload audio, and we can also record a video. All of this is useful because when I go to show you the story map, all of these elements that I've already uploaded on here will now be on the story map. So I'd like to just go to the story map, see if I can figure that out here. Oh, or not.
I think you're going to have to stop the share and restart the share again, Jerry.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things we're still continually doing is taking all of these materials that the students, that Jerry gathered over the summer, and working to combine them through these deep maps.
Yes. Can you see this document now? It
Mhm.
says
Yeah.
Historical
Yeah, I can
Committee.
see it now.
Okay. So this is a story map. I don't know if people are familiar with story maps, but it allows you to use content to tell the story. Some newspapers and online journals use story maps to add a certain amount of interactivity when it comes to locating places, as well as and allowing a very rich visual information. This is a very short one. I can show you a longer one, but just briefly. In this particular one, I've got a map tour. I'll show you some transitions, some information about the schools, and the usefulness of slide overs. This is a list of all the different items that I have pointed out already. And if I click on one, you can see how the tour will allow me to go through. So I took a photograph from there and I've shared it of the last remaining building at the refinery, the blueprint of the school, the cairn, an interesting feature of power poles that are just past the cairn if you're driving south, the Mercury school sign, or pardon me, the Mercury sign, which was relatively obscure and I only noticed it out of the corner of my eye. We can include images from the Howdy MacPhail collection, as well as images from there of the Mill City, and then the images from the Vancouver area. The nice thing about the story map is it gives you a bit more control as a storyteller when it comes to transitioning from one photograph to another. So you can see the ability of the user to just scroll and see the changes over time from different periods. This also allows you to have the oil maps, and like I say, you can have more context in here and be able to zoom in to see all the different names. and the information about the school. So if you had this image, but you couldn't really read it, you can include all the text that's on it so that people would understand. This particular one, the first school was developed in 1931. These dates are very important for us. You can also have images of the last school that was built in the area. And you can also go back to the very first photograph that we have from the area. And I can't remember if this was 1932 or 1937. It's a little hard to find this image, but it was taken by J.L. Irwin. This book was published in 1940. The other thing I mentioned were slide overs, which let you see then and now images of details in the area for royalties, for instance. And that's a very brief explanation of what you can do with story maps. It will just take a very short amount of time to share a story map that I developed for one of the tour guides at the Turner Valley Gas Plant. Dustin Brodner has this beautiful vest with all these badges, and I wanted to incorporate the badges as part of a storytelling experience when it comes to the Turner Valley area. Granted, this is my very first story map, and I wanted to really explore what you could do with it. The context of the badges both mean a lot for him from a family point of view as well as from a community point of view. And I tried to locate these within the context of a map. And the information in here. I'm just going to skip this. This is long, so I'm just going to go down to royalties and show you how you can add a lot of contextual information, allowing people to do that slide over, as well as other information that you can find online. But I think I'm going to close there because I think I've gone over my 20 minutes. So I'm going to stop the share and answer any questions if anyone has.
Our next steps are really to continue working on this deep map of Foothills County. We did collect a lot of data. We haven't been able to go through all this summer. So to continue working on the deep map and then also develop a series of these stories maps that will be connected to the deep map that will tell different stories from the information that we collected as well.
And maybe just to add a little bit to maybe it's a little bit of the context to put all this kind of together. Basically, a deep map, just to be clear, is a placeholder. It's a software. It's an application that's on that is web-based. That once it's created, it can be accessed by anybody in the world. So Jerry, right now, as part of his PhD process, is developing this deep map with the Deep Mapping Institute out of the university, the Michigan Technology University, that are specialists in this approach, and they're developing tools to make these kinds of products available for different communities to be able to build the deep map, and then to make it accessible for anybody, any user, anybody in the community who would like to share something on that deep map. So when Jerry was showing, oh, you see, these little dots there, those little dots could be added, and each one of those can be stories that can be added and enrich the map by anybody in the community. Now, we're not at that point yet. That's kind of like the end goal. The end goal will be to have a deep map available for Albertans and even beyond. Jerry's concentration of the deep content for his PhD will be the Foothills County, right? I just wanted to, and the story map is just an example of how, let's say, an individual can say, hey, I want to add a story map to the DMAP. So it's just, it doesn't have to be a story map, but that is one option that, individuals could have eventually. So I just want to put that into context so that you kind of understand what all this is kind of, what does it all involve and how it completely aligns, hopefully, with the kind of developments you would like to see move forward with your own projects.
Okay, well, that's very interesting, no doubt about it. You broke up there a little bit, Mr. LeBlanc. So
Oh,
if I'm getting the gist of this, so if there's going to be a website and then people can go on the website and click on those things, but you're also saying that they could, if like somebody has added information, they could add that on themselves
yes,
into
that is
that.
correct.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got the gist of that. Okay, is there any questions from the panel that I'd like to ask? Go ahead, Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What software platform are you using for the GIS?
The software is all ArcGIS. It's the same as the municipality of Foothills uses. It's the same as the University of Calgary. It's just a collector of stuff that you can locate to a geographic location. The goal of the software is to allow you to add stuff to location based on date as well. So you would be able to have historical context for the Mercury School, different eras that you have records for, or photographs, or anything. If you had an audio file of an interview that somebody gave, you'd be able to add that to the map if it had a geographic location. I would love to see all of the archives in Alberta and the photo archives I mentioned have their photographs available so you can see multiple photographs that were taken at a geographic location. But it's all based on ArcGIS. The software is developed with the University of Michigan or Michigan Technology something rather.
Michigan Tech, yeah.
Yeah, but I want to improve some of their software because some of it is not developed with users in mind when it comes to adding information.
And the ability for someone who's accessing this online, the ability for them to upload a photo and information related to that photo, is that part of the regular ArcGIS license that most users have?
Yes. Anybody who has access to ArcGIS can add information to the map. As long as the map backend for ArcGIS is hosted by municipality or community, or hopefully the provincial government, they would be able to accept all of these informations. One thing that I'm kind of concerned with is people sharing items that may not. I mean, right now it's very, very open. So there may have to be a committee or group that would have to vet it, similar to Wikipedia articles. If you think there's a large amount of volunteers in the back end of Wikipedia that go through and validate any of the changes to topics which may be conflicting or in flux.
One final question. Just curious, what do you see the longevity of this project, this initiative? I imagine it's you have funding for it for a limited period of time. What's the prospect for this being functional for decades?
Unless ArcGIS changes what's called the API, or it's a programming interface that lets programmers access how to interact with all the different layers. Unless they change that, once the software is up and running, as long as it's hooked to a ArcGIS account that has got permanent status, I don't see there being any difficulty in how everything gets accessed. My goal is to build something that's so robust that ArcGIS itself, or Esri, the company that runs ArcGIS is software. Esri is the company that runs it. They took on the responsibility of somebody building story maps, and then they took on the ownership of story maps as software for anybody with an account to add stuff. That's where I would like to see my deep mapping context involved. So build it robust enough that they will take on the responsibility of maintaining that software. But the account, I mean, it depends. The province of Alberta shouldn't be going anywhere for a while.
If I may, I wasn't referring to the software. I was referring to the organization. You guys, the Department of Anthropology, like, you are proceeding with this project with funding that you've secured for presumably a limited period of time. To keep it going indefinitely will require indefinite funding. The reason why I ask is that I built something similar for the Turner Valley Oilfield Society, and I encountered the difficulty of a very small society trying to sustain a project like this when funding is sporadic and organizations are small and dependent on the work of very few individuals. People burn out and these projects falter. This what you're building here is really exciting, but my question has to do with the longevity of the funding and of the organization, you guys that are putting this forward. If people pour a lot of information up into it, something marvelous gets built. What's the prospect that it disappears?
Sabrina, you want to start?
I guess like a couple of things, and I'll say this and then I really have to go. But I think there's a couple of questions here. So one is, it's a little bit of a chicken or egg question, right? In the sense of, we started off with kind of this prototype that really zeroes in on the Mill City Mercury area, because we know the historical committee was really interested in getting together documents and information about that area. And so the idea is like to build out this like tiny area to actually understand what is necessary to sustain it. So it is partially a software question. It is partially a funding question. It is also partially a kind of data governance question as well. So for example, a lot of the documents we have digitized that are linked to the deep map are, for example, at the University of Calgary libraries. The libraries have a mandate to hold that information in perpetuity. And so there'll be some sort of digital image in theory that will exist in perpetuity and cared for by the University of Calgary libraries. There's a heterogeneous assemblage of data. What if somebody, for example, takes a photo of a photo that they have and then uploads it to the deep map, and who takes care of that? So I think one of our next steps that we actually have to figure out is, what are the types of data that might be integrated, realizing that, for example, institutional images or data might have a different longevity than somebody's personal data. We'll also have to, like, if somebody decides to upload a story or an image, for example, we'll have to understand, like, what is the consent process to get that? What does that person want in terms of their data's longevity? Some people may not want necessarily for their image to be perpetually online. So there's going to be kind of a, now that we kind of have an idea of what's involved, there's actually going to be a kind of a big data analysis component and trying to figure out what exactly this site needs to be self-sustaining. I think the funding question, we have funding for the next 4 years to support this, especially as part of Jerry's PhD project. The building, the gathering, the digitizing, and the figuring out the storage of this data is kind of the biggest question. Beyond this, maintenance is less of a question unless ArcGIS ceases to function, or something major changes that causes it to disappear. But in part, we do have to expect technologies to change. Digital technologies now aren't going to be the same as 10 years from now. So I think a lot of what happens going forward will be done in consultation with you, with other major institutions, for example, who are now holding a lot of the data, like the archives and libraries at the U of C and so forth. So this is I guess, like a kind of a not answer to your question, is that this isn't like there isn't a definitive data storage and maintenance plan, but in learning what it takes to build this kind of prototype, we're starting to understand what elements need to be involved. Our plan for the time being is not to, I mean, we don't see a time endpoint to this. I don't know, Jean-René, if you want to add to this.
Yeah. I think what I wanted to add is that once Jerry's finished his PhD and the map, the deep map, so there's the deep map, once it's completed and ready to be used by the general public, then the question of maintenance is more, it then resides in where is it housed, right? Where is it hosted? And then now, Jerry, can you confirm, like, I thought the deep maps were housed specifically through the deep mapping institution and not necessarily ArcGIS, but maybe I'm wrong. Can you confirm that for me?
Well, the institution has its own ArcGIS account where they were doing a lot of this stuff, but their funding may have been curtailed because they were funded by the National Endowment of the Humanities in the United States. So they may not be able to actually fund that. In the context of this one, it's tied to my account. And this is why I was trying to get the Energy Stories Lab to have their own account or talk to the IT department here. The software itself is actually hosted on GitHub, and that's the University of Michigan, or sorry, the Michigan people are hosting their software on GitHub so that you can actually access it, copy it, and run it for your own purposes.
So just to reiterate, once the map itself is completed, then depending on where it's going to end up being hosted, that's the perpetual cost, right? Moving forward.
Right. Yeah.
Now, in terms of how much investment a community puts into promoting this idea of contributing to such a product, that comes back to the community itself, right? Yeah.
These are logistics that we haven't quite figured out yet. They are ideas that have not really been part of the deep mapping project from Michigan. I don't know if they actually are approaching people. Their context was completely different. They had all these mining towns, all the personnel records, all the information, the photographs that were historically archived that they added to their map. But I don't know if they really approached other people to add their own stories to the map. So we are behaving in a completely different aspect to them. I am working on building this as a solution to allow people to share their stories, because a lot of the local history books have not, like, once they were published in 1988, it's like history stopped for those locations. And this is a way to allow people who are 20 to share their stories on there, or a person who's moved there since the 80s, from another country, let's say, and to share their stories. There are logistics that we're still working on. I don't know if that answers anybody's question. We're working on it.
If I may,
as far as the hosting goes, could that be the responsibility of the county down the road when this is all completed? And if we're talking in perpetuity, then
Yes. I would like to see the province take on the responsibility of hosting all the information that they're gathering.
that would be better.
Or,
Yep.
or federally. It could even be part of a larger library group. I mean, it's data that you're collecting. The ability to share data is what's really unique about this project. Like anybody can add information. You could, yes. Sorry, there's ideas I'm working on, but I don't want to say them out loud just yet. But yes, it
that's
would be
fine.
nice if it was tied to a community. Given the fact that there are small communities and municipal districts that don't have the funding for this, I think it would be better if it was aimed for a much higher level.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think just to recapitulate is that once the initial map is done, anybody can add to it like anywhere, even in the world. It's like the map can move.
Yeah.
It's not low, it's the map itself is like the map of the world. It's, and then any community can just build on that, right? It's not like this project is not limited to just one location. The thing about the deep map is that once it's in place, then I guess you could zoom into a specific community, and if that community added things to it, right? So a little bit like when Jerry was showing the tour of one location, you could also do a tour of all deep maps that are the deep map can have a tour of all the locations that have contributed to it anywhere in the world. And if am I correct to say that, Jerry? Because that's my understanding of it. Yes.
Yeah, the more I work with this, the more I'm understanding that there are going to be logistics that I haven't really approached yet. For one thing, if a family wanted to share their information on this deep map and not make it public, can there be a format for that? Can you target just a family's collection of memories that they've put in there with their own family photographs, and then follow a story map that allows you to see the growth and projection of that family over time? These are the things that I would like to add, but they're so nebulous still that I haven't really figured out how I would even approach it, building that context in. One thing that I'm very interested in is to allow a community to share their memory privately, so that only a person with a passcode or within 100 kilometers could actually access that. And that might sound strange, but if you think of Indigenous communities recording their local legends, histories, narratives, and elders or personal photographs, I think that might be something that requires a community sense of privacy that should be accounted for in the context of whatever it is that I'm building. And it's very easy to confuse the deep map as a whole and the software that I'm working on to actually allow it to run properly.
A living document.
Yeah,
Yes,
I would call
but
it
open
is.
source. It's kind of,
You
you
know-
can think of it as open source. Once it's created and it's functioning, anybody can contribute it. So in terms of cost and investment, then it comes back to just you guys as a community. You're like, hey, we want to promote this for our own community. So what are the steps that we could put in place to ensure that members of our community can get involved, can get engaged? Are we doing an image drive? Are we going to hire somebody to promote this and ensure that they can help our citizens to get engaged, to get involved, et cetera, right? That's, yeah.
Yeah. If you think of the early maps for Google Maps, they had the opportunity for anybody to share images for any location. They've since curtailed that to just commercial areas as well as parks. And an important one of this is Harry Hill, Alberta, had a park that had a buffalo sculpture. And there was some controversy because at the time they were considering the buffalo sculpture and the way it was celebrated to be colonialism. And they removed the name of the park. They've since reinstalled the buffalo sculpture, but you can no longer access it through the Google Maps imagery as a park because the park is no longer named. So this used to happen for Google. They've since curtailed it. This would allow a much broader accessibility for how information can be shared and stored on there.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions from the panel? I see that Ms. Perrick had to leave and we lost one of our members also. So I guess I'll thank you gentlemen both. One final question from me. So we have another meeting in February. Would we be reaching out to you again at that time for perhaps another update? Obviously not as thorough as this one was. This was excellent. Just wondering if there's going to be enough progress by February, or should we wait till maybe our spring or summer
I
meeting?
think maybe the spring one would be best. It'll give us a couple of more months to,
Yep.
that would be great. And then we would love to this is going to be like a 3 to 4 year project. So
Yep.
we're
Yep.
happy to come in and share
Yep.
the progress where we're going. So maybe, yeah, in a couple of months, maybe in early
Okay.
April or May, something like that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we have one in February and probably our next one would be somewhere in May or early June. So we'll reach out then.
Sounds great. We would love to
Okay.
be with you again.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thanks very much for attending
thank you
today.
so
And
much.
that was most interesting.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you again. Pretty interesting stuff. Mr. Ross, that looked a lot like the presentation that you gave us a couple of years ago on the Turner Valley about the interactive map and the,
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really similar.
Yeah.
It's interesting work that they're doing. I wonder if I know they did reach out to the Turner Valley Oilfield Society. I wonder if they're talking also to the Okotoks Museum and the Museum of the Highwood and like maybe this is the platform that we can use to get the goal that I read back at, its stated goal in one of these pages is to get the One Room Schoolhouse project up on an accessible online map. Maybe that their platform is something we can use. Maybe the information from the Okotoks Historic Society that they compiled is the information that can be used to tell the story of the schools. Maybe, it can all be brought together. It might be worth seeing if we can get all the societies together with these guys to understand what they're doing and see how we can all work to make this a really great tool for people who are interested in the region's history.
yeah, the nice thing about these guys is they've got the funding and they've got the manpower and they've got the PhDs and they've got the summer students and got the staff to do the work. So yeah, we need to figure out where we fit in within that.
Well, yeah, I'd like to add what they're doing. It's not that hard. Like I did it as a volunteer. I leveraged the contact I had with Old Man River Regional Service Commission and I found a programmer on Kijiji. But I paid that programmer $3,000 to build a database, and the Old Man River basically did it as a favor to me because I had a relationship with them through my work at the town, and we put it together, and it wasn't a ton of work. Like this can be, it doesn't require the University of Calgary and all the resources that are available to them. It requires the license that the county already has, and just a little bit of time and expertise. But it's not like, I know it looks quite daunting when they give a very polished presentation, but the software makes it all, it's pretty easy to do. I guess I'll share my bias is that this is something that the county does and we own this, and it's something built within this organization in collaboration with the societies that are operational within the county. But if the preference is to kind of piggyback on what the U of C is doing, it's great. That's fine too. The intention is just to make local history accessible to the public, and that's what the U of C project's doing too. But I'd like to see the project owned within ownership within this organization rather than the county. But that's just my own preference.
Okay. Fair comments. I see that Ms. Perrick sent the luncheon invite to myself and Ledge Services. Sherry, could you send that out to the rest of the group? Unfortunately, the deadline to register is at noon. And the luncheon's on Wednesday, so that's council day for 3 of us. So if you guys want to go, then.
What?
For the luncheon that she mentioned, the announcement that she made, the Petroleum History Society announcement that 5 of their grad students are going to be speaking about the history of the BNA and some other things. So you'll get that email here right shortly. Okay, we've got a hard stop at noon, so I'm going to push on through here. Mr. Ross, do you have any more concerns about the bylaws? You've made lots of comments about them, and that's for sure. We're not making any aggressive changes to the bylaws. So any other comments you'd like to continue on?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Could I ask anybody for a motion to accept the bylaws approved or for approval? Mr. Ross, make that. All in favor of that motion? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to number 8 is our action list. This is a fairly open list that has a lot of ongoing stuff. I was going to suggest that we take out number 12, the Mill City, and that was literally to do what with Councillor Miller was doing at the time. And we've had a reply from the government as far as doing a pullout, and the U of C has taken this Mill City kind of under their belt. So I'm wondering if it needs to be on our action list. I'll look for comments on that. And other than that is just ongoing stuff. Gladys Hall, again, comments are there. We've talked to Mr. Porter, who has reached out to the province. And that is slow as molasses, as all provincial things are doing. Pardon me. And the train stations and whatnot, we'll leave on for the time being, but that was kind of BJ's baby, and I don't know where BJ is landing or if he's going to stay on this committee. So I think we'll wait till the next round of input for members at large, and if he jumps on board again, then we can pick this up again. So we'll just leave it on till after we've had our intake of potentially new people that want to join this board. Any other comments on the action list? Go ahead.
Sure. It's not a comment on the items currently on the list, but maybe to suggest an item that we might want to add to it. Is building on my comment regarding working with other societies in the area. Is there any, just want to open that up to discussion. Is there any interest from, do any of you see any value in having some form of consultation with the societies that are active in the area, even if it's only just to be aware of what's going on? Maybe it's as simple as just requesting them to share meeting minutes, and it's just part of our council agenda, and we can, see what they're doing, and maybe, see if there's some way we can support or whatever. Or maybe it's more involved and we request, like some kind of meeting where we can share what we're working on and they can share what they're doing. Do you see any value in that? Opening that up for discussion.
Definite value, I think. So what I just saw today with what the University of Calgary is doing, I see an overlap of what you've already done with the Turner Valley Oilfield Society. So I don't know if they've reached out to them per se. And, you know, because there could be a lot of that work that's already done that the U of C is trying to do. I know back in the day when they first came to us, we did suggest that they reach out to the Museum of the Highwood for some information. And from the Okotoks one, I don't know if that's, but yeah. I know some people on the Okotoks Ag Society, or not the Ag Society, but the Historical Society, so I could certainly reach out.
But Mr. Chairman, what I'm suggesting is like some formal communication, you know, from this group to the societies. You know, and I don't know whether that's just, you know, we'd like to share meeting minutes with you. We see value in just regional collaboration, or we'd like to, you know, attend a meeting, or I don't know what it is. I'm not picking up a lot of interest from the other members. But I think as the county's historical committee, well, with the, you know, the county's, you know, the premier organization within this area, right? Like we're the local government. We're the county. We have longevity. We have the resources of government. I think my bias is that we reach out to these societies and say, like, we want to see what we can do to support your actions. Like, is that, you know, I guess putting out to the councilors, is that what you see the role of the county being, or am I out am I mistaken?
No, I don't think you're mistaken, but any comments?
Artie, you're on council.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Well, so this is my first meeting, just kind of feeling this out, trying to figure out where we're going here. So I don't know what other historical committees we have in the area, so kind of drawn a blank there. But going back to your terms of reference and what are the roles. So I'm just gonna blather for a minute, but you know, from a GIS standpoint, I don't know how hard it is for to take some further explanation, but we often do histories on our applications. So I don't know that we want to build a story file for every legal in the municipality, but on the other hand, maybe that's not a bad idea. Then you could pop it up and you can see the transitions if the software was easy to do. But it kind of goes back to your first point. What are the roles of this historical committee? It gets a little bit over daunting when you look at the Glenbow or you look at the U of C, you look at the High River Museum. So much of this information is already stored somewhere. So I'm sorry, I don't have any answers for you. I don't know what other historical committees do exist, and I am kind of scratching my head on what is the role of this committee. I do know that we run across some historical properties, and maybe we should be doing a little bit further examination on them. And so is that just limited to? Is it the whole municipality, or what are we doing? I kind of agree with you there, but as this is my first meeting, some more thought required. Thanks.
I certainly don't have an issue making a number 14 on our action item list to reach out to the other societies. There is, Millerville has a historical society. I don't know of other ones either, other than the Okotoks and High River ones. I did reach out to the Museum of the Highwood when we were talking about Mill City, perhaps just putting a plaque about Mill City on the existing cairn that's north of Longview, and seeing if that was an option. And I didn't get any feedback yet, that I haven't followed up, but but again, yeah, I mean, we have all the opportunity to reach out to whoever we want. Like I said, what I saw today in the presentation, I saw a lot of duplication of your presentation of a year ago. That's what I have the concern is, are we double, are two people doing the same job that, so where we go as a historical committee, I think the UFC is doing the kind of things that we want to do, but they have, as I said earlier, they have better staffing, better funding, and this, they're doing the legwork on it, and it could be potentially turned over to the county for once it's all set up and going to keep it in motion in perpetuity. That could, that's where county kicks in my world. So, but I'm certainly happy to put this on as an item 14 in our action list if that's the desire. Go ahead. Or Ted, go ahead.
I guess, thinking out loud, I don't know if, adding that as an item on the action list is the, I don't know if that is a great idea. Maybe we need help figuring out what the purpose of the committee is. Maybe administration can help set maybe at the next meeting, we have a kind of a bigger conversation around what we're doing, and maybe administration can help facilitate that conversation. The committee was called into, it was created for a purpose. There might have been more context around, the creation of the committee than, well, sure, there's more context that I'm aware of. I don't know. I wasn't around back then. I did look into I have seen reference to history in the MDP, in the current MDP. There's a section on history, and it kind of speaks to things that would inform the role and function of this committee. And maybe there's reference in other county documents that that we're not aware of yet that could help us understand what we're trying to achieve here. And so maybe administration could help us reinvigorate our sense of purpose and to help us learn what we're gonna, or determine what it is that, what role we're gonna serve here.
Yep. Fair comments. And I think the niceness of what we're doing right now is that we have some new people we have 2 new counselors that are on the committee. And then of course we'll be putting out for our members at large soon. And if we get some new folks on, then with new folks comes new ideas. Yeah, I don't know what staff can do, but we can certainly have more fulsome chat in the next meeting and see what people kind of think about where we're going in this. More comments, Mr. Mills, go ahead.
Well, I think so, because we're, this thing here where we've reached out about Mill City and royalties and all these places, that's good. But now the university has spent the money, they've done the work. All we should be doing, in my opinion, is being a directive when somebody phones in and says, do you got any information on these places? You can say, yeah. You get a hold of the University of Calgary. And they've done it. We don't have the expertise, we don't have the money, and we don't have the manpower to do a lot of these things, but we can be the directive. But let's talk about that in the next go around, because we just can't do it. And, we just don't have the resources. So, but it's good to be able to have something like the UC do all this stuff on our, that we can draw on. Okay, so that's my concern.
And if we become the host of the U of C's work, then that obviously is a comes off our website. So when you get that phone call, do you have some information? Yeah, go on our website. There's a link to what the work that the U of C has done, or what the Turner Valley Oilfield
Yeah.
Society has done, or
Yeah.
all those kind of links can be right off our website and easily accessible.
So, yeah, that's,
Okay.
I'd like to see us talk some more about it. You're right, Ron.
Okay, do we need a motion to accept the action list as presented, or Ms. Barrett, or is it just no?
I think we can just take that direction and maybe put something together for the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we're running out of time, so I think our roundtable we kind of been dealing with between the new business and the action items. I'll go one more time around the panel just to see if there's anything left to discuss.
Just encourage from my standpoint, just to encourage the guys, both Mr. Porter and Mr. Reva Cameron, to work on Gladys and try to get that thing finalized. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I'll put a bug in his ear
Thank
when I
you.
see him next week again.
appreciate it.
Okay, our next meeting date is February 2nd, 2026 at 10 a.m. Again, and from the U of C standpoint, I don't think we'll be looking for an update for them. So we'll play that one by ear. If we don't have a lot of action to, or maybe that whole meeting can be discussed about, because we don't have a lot of other things going on through the winter. So maybe that meeting will be, we'll have a lot more time to have more fulsome discussion about where this committee wants to go. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I'll adjourn the meeting at 5 minutes to 12, 11:55. And thank you all for coming, and thanks administration for your help.